Hi there, I am Edmond, one of the project manager within CartONG.
Hi, I'm Maeve, also an information management project manager in CartONG, and Edmond and I are two authors of this study called Program Data, the silver bullet of the humanitarian and development sectors, in which we cover the practices, needs, and also the stakes of francophone civil society organisations on the question of information management. And this lightning talk aimed at giving you an overview of some of the key components of this study.
In fact, it has been a long time that we thought about it, and why we thought about it is because also we never identify an equivalent on which we were able to base our analysis and to use it also, even if it's not the first purposes, but I would like to say like an advocacy tool. There was no really baseline or no really reference data. There is a lot of different articles which are existing, a lot of different studies, but on very specific topic, and none of them, at least according to our knowledge, are really embracing the topic as a whole. And in the same time, we had the feeling that the topic was slightly misunderstood. That there was misunderstanding regarding the scope, regarding the definition, and that therefore this was leading to a lack of lack of consideration of the topic of information management within the CSO, and really source of various confusion.
This lack of understanding and adoption of the terminology and concepts is something we also felt through all the numerous partner requests that we got, and also from the sector in general and the different conversations that occurred on the topic. And there was definitely these stakes that were not as clearly identified as was needed. And actually, the feedback that we got after the study came out really confirmed this, that people needed structure and clarification.
We decided to use the term program data rather than information management, at least at the beginning of the study, because we realized that the term was really not well at all understood in the francophone side. To be honest, it's also the case on the anglophone side, or at least there is very different interpretation of the definition. This lack of clear definition is really leading, as I mentioned a bit before, to different issues like lack of ownership within organization, not clear share of responsibility within an organization, and therefore, generally speaking, a lack of recognition of this topic within the sector. We therefore thought that it was important to start the study to clarify this term and the scope of information management, and we came up with a definition which is slightly adapted of one of them, which is well known, which was defined by the IASC some years ago, and which is based on the usual data management cycles that I imagine all of you are knowing. We also tried to a bit split the term information management in terms of different components, and try to clarify, for example, that information management was aiming at creating information management products, that it was based on different processes, that it was translated into data flow, and this kind of key element or key wordings that are existing within information management. The most important part, or at least for us, the most important element was also to try to clarify what is information management toward very connex terms that are usually confused with information management, like knowledge management, monitoring and evaluation, ICT for development. And we try to come up with the visuals that you can see, which allow to position a bit the information management to, for example, clarify that it's part of the knowledge management, but it's two different terms, which knowledge management is larger than just information management, that it's something very close from ICT4D, for example, but for which there is some difference, and this kind of definition or inspiration we try to come up into the study.
First of all, we can mention one common trend, and one that actually surprised us, the fact that all NGOs, be them small, large, development, humanitarian, through the study that we did, the interviews, the survey also highlighted that they felt there was a lack of maturity. And we thought this was going to be more specific for some types of organizations than others, while it was actually pretty widespread. In terms of differentiating factors, of course, there were no surprises on the size of the organization, where small organizations feel that they have less resources, be it financial, technical, strategic, human resources, to tackle these topics. On the other types of differentiating factors, of course, there's a lot of things that are linked to the type of activity, for example, between humanitarian and development, that is very different, and therefore that entails a difference in terms of data management, with on the humanitarian front, a lot of things coming from a sort of global, cross-cutting approach throughout all processes, also because these NGOs often have a lot of different types of activities to tackle, while on the development side it's often much more focused on one specific sector, and therefore they have a much more advanced IT type or ICT4D type approach in relation to data management, while it's more widespread on the humanitarian side. Maybe one last focus that we found interesting is we really had this idea before we wrote the study that Anglophone NGOs were much more mature than Francophone. And it is the case to a certain extent, but probably less so than we initially thought. And all the interviews with Anglophone NGOs and network heads showed that they didn't feel that much that it was the case. So it was still very obvious that not only do they have more human resources available, but also that they started tackling these topics maybe 10, 15 years before Francophone NGOs, and therefore have a level of reflection that is not there amongst Francophone NGOs at this stage, beyond also all the technical resources that are already out there.
The study allows us to identify 6 main stakes for the information management sector. I imagine that it will not surprise you, as they are not new for the sector. However, it was quite important for us and also for the different stakeholders with whom we are discussing to formalize them in order also to be able to restructure them and prioritize the next step on how to move forward, therefore to change a bit the issues that we observe. The first issue that we observe is the lack of data literacy within organization and within all the different humanitarian and development workers. This lack of data literacy is a bit, I would say, logically leading to fragile and often inconsistent strategy within organizations. So that means that the information management topic is usually not properly tackled, and also therefore leading to a lack of leadership and poorly share of responsibility regarding the topic. Usually it's a topic where there is not necessarily somebody which is dedicated to that and which is split between a lot of people. We also observe that NGOs are usually not properly understanding the technology environment in which they are working. They are either underestimating, for example, the cost or the complexity of what they are looking for. We also observe what is a common trend for the global society, that NGOs were a bit overloaded by information, that the quantity of information they have to manage is too large regarding what they are doing with it. And at the meantime, that they are underestimating also the quality and importance of qualitative data compared to quantitative information. Finally, the last issue, the last text that we observe is a lack of consideration for the data protection and responsible data management topic, which is probably one of the most important stakes and for which humanitarian development sector we need to invest and change a bit the way on how they are looking to data.
First of all, in terms of content, we can really mention that there was a much stronger focus than we expected on the methodological and process side rather than the actual tools. We found this particularly interesting because we've definitely been aware of a sort of a lack of focus on these aspects in a lot of the NGOs we've been working with. And so the fact that the 3 topics that came out as highest priority in the visual that you see are really the question, first of all, of choosing a tool and how to go about it, also of responsible data and data quality, was a way of really highlighting the importance of thinking through methodologies rather than actually focusing just on learning on tools. So this was one of the key highlights. The second highlight we can mention is also that we were interested to see that however much we hear a lot about high-tech, biometrics, artificial intelligence, big data, it's not actually the key focus of interest in terms of content that came out of this study. And people are much more interested in sort of low-tech aspects. And this isn't just small NGOs, but also wider NGOs feel that there's still a huge lack of knowledge on these topics among their organizations, while 95% of the usage in terms of tools is rather on these types of approaches. And secondly, on the types of resources, we can just mention rapidly two interesting focuses. The first one is the importance of the practical side for a lot of learners. Learning by doing peer-to-peer exchanges, in-person trainings definitely came out as a key priority. And linked to that, the sort of adaptable training material, making sure that learners have a personalized approach, more the mentoring type approach, rather than learning through documentation that's shared with them, and ensuring that the resources and types of learning material that they have is adapted to their type of learning profile, rather than just having a sort of a standard package.
My main conclusion would be probably that NGOs need to change a bit their data paradigm. What I mean is that information management is not an easy area, and that if NGOs really want to improve their practices, change the way of how they are working, and be able to really tackle the challenge and issues that we have seen above, they need to be proactive and not think that the problem will be solved by themselves. NGOs need to develop the skills of their team, to have dedicated budget, to really be able to apply proper methodology, and therefore to have clear strategy to move forward. What is also very important for me is that NGOs should be able to take position on their environment, on their data environment. What I mean is that they shouldn't wait that a solution will arrive and meet their needs. They need also to be able in position to tackle a bit the solution provider. In the same way, they need to change their data protection practices to be in align with their value, but they also need to be able to take position regarding current scandals, regarding the tools that they are using, regarding the requests that they could have from other stakeholders, and not stop perhaps to consider that data is a neutral topic.
And beyond the actual responsibility that NGOs have on this topic, other types of actors also need to get fully on board the train. This is both donors to help structure and help also finance these approaches. Also, network heads need to get an understanding and a grip of all these the stakes that we're talking about. And all this needs to be really focused on the building of the IM professional field in the same way that meal or admin or logistics have been done in the past. IM needs to also be structured in such a way. So as part of our project, our side, where we're going to try and help to formalize a bit the human resource side of information management, develop some practical and strategic resources in the years to come. But if there isn't adequate coordination and investment by a wider range of actors, it'll be like shooting in the dark.